good afternoon, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Liam and I'm a wildlife photographer in the great state of Maine, and we're actually on my 8.5 acre property here in the mid-coast of Maine. And I've got essentially 4 objectives for the day. Over the last winter, I've been able to really assess the property and start to hone in on certain areas that I think will be really fruitful for wildlife photography, especially as the spring moves into the summertime. And we're actually at the kind of the main hub on the property itself, where there's this nice clearing, and I've been able to attract a lot of birds back in the fall. And now that it's the springtime, I'm hoping to do the same thing and start to utilize this space a bit more, because it does have a great vantage point down the creek here that runs right through our property, and hopefully I can intercept some larger wildlife, maybe some coyotes or deer, as well as the turkeys that are in the area right now. What's on the docket today is 4 main objectives, and we're gonna kind of go in order here. The first is going to be set up the bird feeders and the suet. So at heart, I am a photographer. Above all else, whenever I'm out taking photographs, I'm always trying to capture the best light, the best background, make sure everything's in focus when things need to be in focus. So I'm photographer first, wildlife photographer second, if that makes sense. So I wanted to just define the areas where I think are gonna be the best to attract and be able to create some beautiful images. So that's gonna be the first objective today. The second thing that we're gonna do is get my trail camera set up, and I'm actually just getting back from my trip to Nova Scotia. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up in the top right corner, and you can go check that out after this. It's about 38 minutes long, so hopefully you're up for a relaxing wildlife adventure in Nova Scotia. But I haven't had my trail camera set up since that trip. So now that I'm back, I'm settled in, I wanted to get the trail camera back on the property, and I'm gonna use it as basically a method to see what's in this exact area. So I'm not gonna set it further out where I know that there's probably a higher chance or higher probability of capturing something on the camera. I do wanna keep it more local, closer to my house, and see exactly what's coming up here. The third thing that we're gonna do today is get my photo blind squared away and in a secure spot that I can leave it for the next coming week. And that's gonna go in conjunction with where I set up my bird hangers and the feeders themselves. So we'll kind of get that all dialed in this afternoon as well. And then the fourth thing that I'm going to do is just start to clean up the path that I take to get down here. First step right now is actually to go back up to the house, grab the bird seed, grab the feeders and the hangers, and probably spray a little bit more bug repellent. So let's get started. So here we are up at the house. I got a brand new 40-pound bag of sunflower seeds that I did not want to have to carry down there. So I'm going to fill these 2 up, because I know that these feeders are going to be hanging out down there. And then I'm going to bring just this box of suet so I can fill up my suet feeder. And that should get us started for now. Well, I've seemed to have acquired my dog in this endeavor today. Felt kind of bad with him sitting inside, and I'm making enough noise. I don't think that the birds are gonna care. I think this spot's gonna be best to set up the photo blind at. Off to my right-hand side, there's a dead wood that has some recent pileated woodpecker markings on it. I can tell also there's some shavings on the ground, so it's definitely fresh. And then off to my left-hand side, there's another piece of dead wood that doesn't look as fresh, but is a promising sign as well, just because there's a lot of different trees around it that will hopefully attract some other bird species, not just woodpeckers themselves. And then also there's a lot of different perches just with the general brush and tree growth that will provide just the safety that I think birds look for when they're approaching the bird feeders themselves. I'm gonna clear out this space, this ground right beneath me here, and get a flat surface going for my photography blind, and we'll get all set up and allow hopefully a couple days for those birds to find what we got going on here. At this spot, what I wanna do is I wanna use this hanging hook to put a bird feeder on. I'm hoping that this piece of kind of dead branch, albeit kind of a larger branch for bird photography, for perching, I think would be a great spot that will hopefully allow some background blurring and focus straight in on the birds that might perch on this. I can put some more suet along here to help attract them to it, put some birdseed here as well. It's not, you know, like I said, it's gonna be the best branch for a small little songbird, but I think it will work well, especially with, there's a bunch of distance behind it that will be good for blurring out the background and really focusing in on whatever bird's coming over to this area. As I've been walking around, I've noticed that there's this really cool bonsai looking tree. I say bonsai, it's not an old tree. It just has the look to it. It looks like there's some type of stunting of growth or some curvature, but it even has like green moss growing on it. And I think that this would be a really good perch to add some texture into the photograph, add a little bit more ambiance from the environment that we're currently in, rather than just some blurred out background shot of a bird perched on a branch. I think this is going to be a really good spot. So I'm also going to set up one of my feeders with just the bird seed right at this location and hopefully attract some birds to come in, land on this tree, and dive down to get some sunflower seeds. Every now and then I get asked which photography blind I'm using, and this is the Tragopan Grouse V Plus photo blind. What I like about it is it's got this large viewing hole, and this is obviously the entry point, but also when you're set up, once you're all zippered up, this one comes up, that goes all the way up, And then you still have a really nice, you know, brown mesh to be able to see through that still gives you some camouflage. In those cases where ultra camouflage and absolute secrecy is not necessarily needed, because, well, you can still see through this, but this is gonna give me the widest field of view. So I'm gonna set this up facing my 3 different feeder setups and hope for the best. A few weeks back, I also had a commenter say to get the heavier duty stakes. This one's about, I think, 12 inches or 16 inches, 14 inches, somewhere in there long, and they do phenomenally. I actually used these as well out in the Nova Scotia video when we were getting those like 35 to 50 mile per hour winds and a bunch of rain. This was crucial in keeping that thing there and not losing that blind. The only issue that I'm facing with this substrate is it's of course rocky. So every now and then you go down and you hit a rock. Not sure if it's because I'm on a slight incline or decline, but I am tilting this way. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere, and I don't think it affects my side of view or my point of view from all of my feeders here. So as long as it stays up, I'm okay with it. Doesn't need to look pretty. With the blind all set up, the next thing that we need to do is get the trail camera on a tree around here. What's been really nice is, as I've been filming today, I have seen a hairy woodpecker and a downy woodpecker just topped up there. Every time that I go to set up my telephoto lens and get everything in position, it flies away. So I've stopped caring that they're here, but I'm happy that they are here. Anyway, gonna get the trail camera set up at a spot that's gonna capture anything that's passing through. I don't exactly care what's coming directly to the feeders behind me. There's probably gonna be some raccoons and a bunch of squirrels. Well, I got 3 of the 4 things done that I wanted to do today, and the 4th one of cleaning up the path and clearing out some brush is just gonna have to be done another day, because it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. I'm pretty exhausted. It took a lot longer than I thought, going back and forth with the bird feeders and trying to decipher what's gonna be the best setup with the bird feeders, but pretty happy with how this came out. Obviously I'll be a lot happier when we come out here and there's a bunch of woodpeckers and birds that are perching on my bonsai tree, as I guess we're gonna call it for this video. But yeah, I guess we'll be back out here soon. Suet feeder has definitely had a good chunk eaten from it. I do worry that I might be a little too close to the suet feeder, but if it's things like chickadees, titmice are a little bit more skittish, goldfinches slightly more skittish, but woodpeckers, I don't know if it's gonna be too close to scare away woodpecker or not, but I guess we're gonna find out, and if need be, I can kind of swap out the feeders and maybe put a bird feeder where the suet feeder is, see if that works better. But yeah, right now it's about like 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm gonna give myself a few hours to just see if anything's coming, and this is only mere, under 24 hours after setting this all up, so if we get some activity, it's gonna be a good sign. .16 now. I think that was good for me today. I was hoping to see a few more birds, but that goldfinch pair showed up. The squirrel, I can always rely on a squirrel to show up. A big fat gray squirrel wants to come in and steal my bird seed. But these bird feeders, I actually recently got them over at Ocean State Job Lot, and it's nice because they have a cage around the ports for the access for the birds, and I'm hoping that these will work a little bit better in cutting down, or at least prohibiting or slowing down the stealing of birdseed from the squirrels. The only problem is that top lid, all they have to do is just flip it off. So if they're able to knock down the bird feeder itself, that top's going to fall off and that seed is just going to spill out willy-nilly. I guess we'll find out. Well, I suppose I probably expected that. Coming out here this morning, you could probably tell that it's been 2 weeks since I've had my last photo blind session. I did have to go out of town for one of my best friend's weddings, and then jumped right back into a work week. And oh hey titmouse. And it's just been 2 weeks since I've been able to get back out here. But what's nice is that we've got the birds back in this area. I actually heard a ruffed grouse drumming off in the distance when I was walking out here, and the major bummer is just that my seeds have been stolen. I'm going to assume that a squirrel attacked each one of my feeders and the suet feeders in the last 2 weeks. What's a bummer is not so much the bird seed. You can get a large 40-pound bag for about $25 depending on where you go to shop, but my suet isn't the cheapest thing. I do buy it. It's about 10 bucks a box, and I think I had close to a full box in that suet feeder. I think I need to reassess how I set up the bird feeders out here, or potentially get new feeders themselves. I'm interested to all of you that have the same struggle that I do. Is there a specific bird feeder that's working best for you that maybe minimizes the amount of seed that's stolen by pests, so to speak? The suet feeder, I probably could just clamp that down better so that if it does fall off, the top doesn't open up. But as it relates to the feeders themselves and the bird seed that gets stolen, let me know if there's anything that I should be doing, given that this spot is very heavily trafficked by both gray squirrels and red squirrels. But let's go take a closer look and see exactly maybe what happened with my bird feeders. So when I bought these things, I should have taken a closer look at the security of the feeder itself, because this top, I can just kind of smack it and it'll fall off. So if that feeder does fall off the ground, this top is just going to immediately fall off. Now, that wouldn't be so much of a problem if the wire that held it together wasn't so flimsy. I mean, this thing is already rusting up and has bent substantially, which I'm surprised, given that it was attached like that it bent this much. I'm going to assume that this is a squirrel. Could have been raccoon as well. I do have the trail camera set up, so we can go check that out after this and see if there's anything that might give us more information on what exactly here, but my gut feeling is that this was done by squirrels. I'm just surprised that these wires got bent so much. But yeah, this feeder is probably going to be better suited up closer to the house where I can keep an eye on it, and I do need to get a more secure feeder set up out this way, given that I don't really have eyes on it day in, day out. As I've been recording some of this video, there's been a chickadee hopping around the trees that kind of dived down at me while I was holding the bird feeder, and then went off right into the bonsai tree, as I've been calling it, and that's a good sign. So not all is lost today. I know that the birds are aware that there's feeders out here. I just need to get them more secure, a more secure setup. Maybe I'm gonna head over to Home Depot later today and check and see if there's anything that's gonna work better. I'm also not opposed to building something using like a clear PVC pipe. So if anyone has a link of or knowledge of a build that you can give me some rough directions that I can build something, I'd be willing to do that as well. As I said, I'm a little bit hesitant to put more suet out here, but I guess I'll throw some more bird seed into the feeders, maybe set up my trail camera and see if I can capture the actual squirrels attacking my feeders out here. But yeah, not all is lost. Not all is lost. And as it relates to the suet feeder, I think this hanger isn't going to be sufficient enough to hold this thing in place. All that needs to happen is a squirrel to shake this hanger and it pops right on the ground. So this thing isn't going to really do much. I think it's more meant for hanging your flowers around the house, but I'll attach maybe a rope, a more secure rope, to the suet feeder, and that should solve this problem. I don't think that I need to go crazy with this, because these things are pretty secure, and all I have to do is really just clamp down the sides, and that will minimize the amount of pests that can get into here. So that will be an easy fix that I'm not too worried about. And I hear that ruffed grouse out there still drumming away. Well, I'm a little bit bummed that I'm light on wildlife footage this morning. With that said, let's go check out the trail camera and see what's been captured over the course of the last couple weeks. I'm always amazed how punctilious deer are out in the woods. They're basically staring right at this trail camera, just checking it out. It's not making a sound. Maybe it does make a somewhat small sound when the camera gets triggered on, but I'm amazed that they are poking their head around the camera and checking it out so close. The turkeys, not so much. But that's the good news, is that there's been turkeys and deer on the property. Given that I was hearing some ruffed grouse off in the distance, given that that chickadee was dive bombing me, I'm pretty happy with coming out today and and just getting back into the groove of making these videos for everyone. So if you've enjoyed today's video, I hope that you consider subscribing if you're not already, and liking the video to help that algorithm. Additionally, you are able to make a small little tip by hitting that thanks button down in the bottom corridor of this video, and any tips that you might send my way would be greatly appreciated. But let's send you off with a few more clips from the trail camera, and I'm really excited to share what I have going on next week. So again, be sure to check in. For now, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.